Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Complicated Relationships Reddit Stories. Hope you guys are safe and healthy. Now let's see what we have in store for you today. In today's story, the man says, "My wife of 3 years informed me at her sister's wedding that she had fooled around with the best man." This is an updated story, so stay with us until the end. Now the story goes like this. It's our third year of marriage. We were together as a couple for 2 years before that. It's been roughly 5 years since we started dating. Her sister got married 2 weekends ago, and of course, my wife was at the wedding party. She helped her sister prepare for the wedding for the 2 weeks leading up to it, as one might expect. No big deal at all. I knew this was going to happen because she kept me informed. She took that Wednesday to Friday off of work to help her and in fact stayed with her for 3 days. I certainly know her sister, but I barely know the guy who is now my brother-in-law. In fact, only met him a few times, but he seems a nice guy. I show up Saturday morning a few hours before the ceremony in hopes of stealing just a few minutes to see her, not wanting to intrude on the day since I know that she is busy, but I haven't seen her since Tuesday. She sees me outside of her parents' house and sends her brother out to tell me that she will come out and see me at the car, which I thought was odd, but whatever. She finally came out and sat in the seat next to me and gave me a kiss. But instead of acting happy to see me, she said she wanted to talk to me, but she didn't want it to ruin her sister's day. She informed me at the reception if I still wanted to go, I might hear some things about the best man and her, and she didn't want it to be awkward or weird. I just kind of sat there stunned. She said that about 4 years ago she had a fling with him and that it didn't mean anything. But she was aware that by nature I'm somewhat jealous and she wanted me to know in advance so that if I heard something I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I just kind of sat there. This was not how I thought my morning would go, but I told her I appreciated knowing it and that it certainly wasn't a big deal now. She went back in the house and I went to eat lunch and decided to meet her at the church. As I'm eating and looking at my phone, it dawns on me that she said she had a fling with him 4 years ago and we've been together for 5. My first reaction was to blow it off and think that she just told me the wrong time. But the more I thought about it, the more I started to remember about a year and a half of being together, she had a phase where she was really sketchy about her behavior. She wasn't available when she normally was and went on a 2-weekend camping trip with friends from work. Of course, I'm a little knotted up over this, but I know I have a long day ahead of me. I go to the wedding and sit there watching everything. After the wedding, they have a line that you walk by and congratulate the bride and groom, and the wedding party is standing in line as well. My wife was standing with some other guy. I don't know him at all, but the best man was there, and I just went down the line and acted like no big deal. I get to the reception and it takes forever for them to come because of the photos. She finally gets there and sits with me. I decided not to say anything as I didn't want to distract from the day. But instead of just letting it go, she then tells me that each of the groomsmen and bridesmaids are going to dance and that she is going to be dancing with him. I asked why she was not his partner for the party, and she said that the maid of honor and her partner were actually married and wanted to dance with each other. At this point, I'm a little more than worried, but I try not to let it show. Thankfully, I was smart enough not to drink because I freely admit that I'm an angry drunk, so I know when not to even partake. She talks to everyone around her, and then the dance comes and he walks over and extends his arm and she gets up. I try not to watch and in fact I make it a point not to. She comes back with him in tow and they are joking like the best of friends. She decided that it would be a good idea to introduce us. But while I didn't tell him to F off like I wanted to, my greeting to him was probably less than cordial. But it did not deter him from sitting and talking with her for a few minutes. The more they sat and talked and reminisced about old times and places, the madder I got. Eventually, I got up and went to the bathroom, and when I came back, he was gone. She decided to tell me that she thought I was rude, which was not what I was all about hearing at the moment. I told her that this wasn't the time or place to talk about it, but rest assured we would talk later. She sat there and then said she was going to change clothes, and as soon as she got back she was telling her sister that we were leaving because I had ruined her day, but she didn't want me to ruin her sister's day as well. I told her that I was perfectly capable of not being a bother to her or her sister the rest of the day, and that I did not want to be the cause of any drama, so I would prefer to just stay. She went and changed clothes and came back all in a huff. Now understand that I have not said a word to her. I even shook the other guy's hand. I guess I just looked miserable, so that is what she was basing this off of. She was adamant about not staying, so I said that if she really wanted to go, we could go, but if she would rather stay, I would be happy to stay. I also said that if she would like, since I came in my own car, I would leave and she could stay if she wants. She at first said that we should stay, but then if I couldn't act any better, I should leave. I asked how I was acting and she said it was obvious I was trying to be like a gorilla wanting to fight. I didn't know whether to laugh in her face or be offended. I went back and sat down while she mingled with the other guests. I talked with her brother for a while, but then ultimately ended up back at our table talking with her grandma. We left at the same time and I arrived home just before she did. I was sitting in the living room waiting on her when she came in and did not beat around the bush. I simply asked her to retell the story about this other guy and she said it word for word like before. After sitting and looking at her for a while, I just asked her, "Are you sure about the time frame?" and she said she was. I then reminded her that we had been together for 5 years, so this fling was well over a year into our being together. What happened next, I can't really put into words. Instead of being flustered or denying or anything, she simply said, "I know." So I asked her to explain, and she told me that they worked together and that it was just a physical thing and she felt like we weren't in a great place at the time, and that she never had any feelings for him and never had any real intentions of leaving me. She just was having some fun for a few weekends. She said that it was probably a mistake on her part to tell me now, but she didn't want me to get blindsided. I did not take this the way she thought I would. We had a big argument which ended when she told me I was acting like a child about all of this. She said that we were married now and this happened way before that and our life together now has nothing to do with him or that time. Well, two things. One, I adamantly disagree about this having no bearing on us. She cheated on me and doesn't even have the goddamn decency to feel guilty about it. Two, I hate being told I'm childish when I get upset over something. It makes me angry to no end because that is her way of acting superior to me. I told her I needed time to think and she told me that there was nothing to think about. We loved each other and this didn't change anything. That was 2 weeks ago and I still am not over it. She has been trying the past few days to get me to talk to her, but I admit that for whatever reason, I'm not viewing her the same as I did before this. Part of me thinks that this is stupid. It happened a few years ago and we are married now and there haven't been any problems at all. But then part of me is like, I just found out that she cheated on me and it hurts so bad. And what makes it worse is that instead of trying to understand how I feel, she is trying to guilt me into just not even thinking about it. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry for the length. I probably should have cut some of the wedding stuff, but it all came out at once. And that's the end of part 1. We have the update coming up next, but before that, if you are enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button so this video will reach many beautiful listeners around the planet. Here is the update. First, I want to clarify something from my first post that I really did not spell out very well. It doesn't have any real bearing on anything, but for some reason it bugs me that I made this part sort of murky. The maid of honor, not my wife, was married to the groomsman, who my wife walked down the aisle with. There were some people who felt my wife was trying to arrange the dance, but I do know for a fact that this part was legit. However, it doesn't mean she didn't try and offer to let them dance or any other form of manipulation, but I just wanted to try and clear that part up a little. Thank you, readers, for your concern on this, and I wish I had some really ballsy statement to make just about how I stood tall and kicked her to the curb, but sadly, that is not what happened. To be blunt, I'm in limbo. There have been developments, but all they have done is make it harder for me to decide. Last week I was mostly angry. Then, as the weekend progressed, I became mostly sad. I want to be able to hate her and flip that switch that tells me I'm being walked on and I'm an idiot, but it's just very hard for me to do that because I still love her and this is ripping me apart. Here is what has happened of any consequence. She finally came to the realization that I was not going to just get over this. This then brought on a near nervous breakdown from her. Someone from the first post stated that she would try and manipulate me like that, and believe me, I was taking these words to heart when I thought she was having crocodile tears. But it soon became apparent to me that she wasn't acting or faking. She was having a legitimate panic attack. This led to an ER visit, and that led to an overnight stay in the hospital, and then to new medications and a scheduled follow-up with her doctor for later next week. This brought her family into it, and that in turn to long conversations all the way around. When we got home with her family, I asked her what she wanted to do since there was a house full of people, and she said she wanted to be with her mum for a while. That was fine with me as I had no desire to hang around all day with her dad or sister, so I said I was going to finish up something at work and would be home later. 2 hours after I got there, I get a text from her begging me to please come home and that she really needs me to talk with her. So I finish up what I was doing and head home. I am greeted on my own front porch by her dad, who asks if he can talk to me for a minute. My anger level was already somewhat high, but I was ready to go to war if she had dumped a sack of lies on me with her dad. I mean, it's not like he and I are best friends, but I've never had a bad moment with him, so I wasn't really going to be happy about being the man who broke his baby's heart. We sat on our deck chairs and he floored me with his opening salvo. I wasn't expecting to hear anything but what he said. He said that she told them what had happened and he wanted to apologize to me because he said that he felt like he did a really bad job as a parent and that his mind said that she was really a creation of her mother's, and that while he loved both of them, he said that they were wrong, and he had told his wife years ago that telling the girls that whatever happens before marriage doesn't count was a horrible idea and value system to install in them. He then said that he wasn't there to stand up for what his daughter did, but he just wanted me to be aware of what she was saying and how she was acting was simply because she honestly believed that being married was an entirely different life, and that they, mum and dad, had romanticized marriage to the point that she wasn't understanding real life. Basically, he was kind of throwing his wife under the bus, but again, this is not what I was expecting at all. We shook hands and he said no matter what I decided, he still thought very highly of me, which honestly made me feel really good for that moment. I then went inside and my wife is curled up in a ball on her mum's lap, and you can tell that she has been crying the entire time I've been gone. Mum gets up and comes and hugs me and tells me she is sorry and that she loves me and she is praying that we can work this out. My wife is laid out on the couch at this point. Her mum and dad leave and she sits there looking at me and crying. Okay, this is where I'm going to make everyone angry and just tell you that I couldn't take it. I went to her and we hugged for a long time, with her telling me over and over how sorry she was. Hey, I know it was the weak thing to do, but again I have to say in my defense that just before this incident occurred, I loved her with all of my heart and would have done anything to not see her in pain. Whatever she had done, I still didn't want to see her like that. Look, it's very possible that she was putting on an Oscar-worthy acting job, but I don't honestly think so. She really seemed broken at that point in time. After a while, when she calmed down, I asked her what she wanted me to come home and talk about, and she said that she wanted to get everything out in the open so I didn't feel like I was being lied to or manipulated. So she wanted me to ask her questions, and I wish I had written down a list, but I came up with a few off the top of my head. She was honest with me, and some of the questions I asked I probably shouldn't have because now the mental image is stuck in there, but honestly it was there anyway and I just now have confirmation. First, I asked her for dates, or at the very least, approximate dates. I didn't tell her about the engagement concern I had because I didn't want her to change stories, and she remembered exactly when they occurred. Fortunately, this happened a little earlier in our relationship than she told me initially, so we were not engaged when this happened. I can't tell you what a relief that was because I became physically ill when I thought about that when someone said it in my last post. Second, I asked how many times. She went overboard with this because instead of just telling me how many different dates, she decided to tell me how many times there was penetration. She wasn't doing it to be mean, she honestly thought that this is what I wanted to know. This part of the conversation did not help me at all and in fact almost broke me down. In truth, it wasn't that often, and in fact, there were really only three different ways it happened, but there were several times during those 3 days. Then came the hard part. Why did she do it? Okay, so again, I'm not the most manly of men, and I am ashamed to admit this, but I couldn't get this out without starting to cry. I asked why wasn't I good enough? Why him? Why did she not just leave me? It was her turn to hold me because at this point everything came rushing at me. Her telling me having to watch them laugh with each other, her now telling me how many times they did it and where they did it. She talked during this, but to this moment I have no idea what she said. I was too upset, and honestly nothing she was going to say made any difference anyway. After I composed myself, I simply told her that the betrayal was horrible, but honestly, her response to me when I found out was just as bad, if not worse. She agreed with me and she apologized for calling me immature. She said that she honestly believed that it wouldn't matter to me now because we were married. When she said this, my blood started to boil again. I started to say something about it, but she jumped in and said that after talking with her parents, she now says that this was very wrong of her and that cheating is cheating, but she still feels like this happiness that we have shared since being married should count for something. I then replied that I kind of felt that happiness was built on a lie. This led to another breakdown on her part and almost another ER visit. But between Ativan and having her breathe into a paper sack, we got her calmed down. I let her sleep the rest of the night because we were both tired, but come Sunday we were talking again. By this time, I wasn't as sympathetic as I had been when we got home from the ER. I told her that I thought her introducing him to me was rude, me having to watch her dance with him was ruder, and the fact that she told me because she was going to get caught was an elite level of rude. Then I demanded to know why did she think I would find out and how many of the people at the wedding knew besides me. Well, obviously the guy knew, but then his best friend, which then led to her sister finding out, and she was afraid her sister was going to be the one to tell me. I asked her how often she sees this guy, and she said that the wedding is the first time she had seen him in 3 years. Then I lost my cool and asked her if she slept with him during any of the days leading up to the wedding. She got all mad about it, acting like she wouldn't do it because she was married now, and I just lost my mind again and had to leave for a while because once again I felt like she was living on married planet or some such thing, and the world a different place than for the rest of us. I finally cooled off enough to come home and try to be civil about things. She finally asked me what she could do to help me get past all of this. This may not sound like much, but it was the first time she offered to help me really, so it was at least a nice gesture. I told her I wasn't sure what she could do or if there was anything either of us could do and that I may never get over this. She said that she wanted to help because she didn't want to see me in pain and that over the years she hopes I'll be able to judge her based on who she is now. She would do anything I wanted to work this out. She also wanted to be sure that I knew that she has been 100% faithful since we've been married and would never cheat on her vows. I sarcastically thanked her, which I admit wasn't the most mature thing to do. I then asked for a moratorium from further talks till at least Wednesday. I have 2 projects I have to get done and honestly I'm just exhausted and I have no clue what I want to do. I shift between periods of red-hot anger where I want to kick her out and then periods of deep emotional turmoil where I want to just forget this and move forward with her. Yes, I know this is not what anyone wanted to hear and no, I'm not proud to type it. but it is what it is at the moment. In conclusion, let me tell you that it's not going to make anyone happy, but here goes. The truth is, she knew perfectly well that what she did was cheating. She has never denied that. However, what she did do was think that being married was like crossing the finish line, and that basically she got by with it. She hid it because she knew if I knew it would be over. However, her shock was that if I knew it after being married, I would still think of it as a big deal and ultimately could end the marriage. I'm not sure if I was plain enough, so let me rephrase. She damn well knew it was wrong and that it would have ended us if I ever found out about it. However, she thought that repercussion ended when we got married. She genuinely was shocked that I still was counting it as cheating because it did not happen in the confines of holy matrimony. Yes, believe it or not, even though she did this and has some other issues that would make you scratch your head, she is devoutly Christian. As you can tell, I am not. So while I think it's a crock of sh, there is a very certain religious aspect to what she sees as marriage. Well guys, that's the end of the story. Please drop a comment and let us know about your thoughts about the OP's situation. Thank you for listening and do like and subscribe for more.